You're listening to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast, your source of music news, stories, and 2-hour deep dive interviews with bands that have sold over 150 million albums. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are joined by a very special guest. He's achieved a level of mastery as the drummer for the multi-platinum selling and Juno award-winning band Crash Test Dummies. They've sold over 12 million albums and they've been nominated for 3 Grammy Awards. So welcome to the podcast, making his triumphant return, Mitch Dorge. Mitch, how are you? And have you added any delicious shoes to this epic collection since the last time we talked a couple of years ago?
Shoes, man. Well, first of all, I think when you asked me about the shoes, I don't know if I told you, but the shoes travel with the band. It's the oddest thing. No one else, like we don't even have, no one even has a wardrobe case that travels with the band. We used to have a wardrobe case at one point in time, but that's all gone now. There we go. Here we go. Now I can see you. And when I started the collection of shoes, they kind of came out in a duffel bag, and now they've grown into like a full suitcase. And it's really kind of strange because when they're unloading the truck all the time at the gig, there's at some point Devin will be saying, where's the shoe bag? We got to have the shoe bag. And there's this really giant suitcase that comes out. And there's no wardrobe in it. It's just shoes. I think there's 21 pairs of shoes now. Only 19 because I have 2 pair here with me that I keep just in case that we're doing something that I have to fly out to that the gear truck isn't coming to. So everything's with the truck in the shoe bag. However, I do have the 2 last pair that I bought are here with me, and I can show them to you.
Can we get a nice display here?
Oh, well, absolutely. Absolutely. I have to have right here.
We have to give the fans what they want.
Yeah. So if you can see this lovely shoe right here, and this one comes from Wellington, New Zealand. I don't know if you can see the color, but it's kind of an iridescent blue. It's really a wonderful, comfortable shoe. I can actually, you know how you get new shoes and you can't wear them for a while? I put these on, they're like slippers right away. And these are like a nice dress shoe. I can put them on with anything. Comfortable to play in and reasonably priced. Actually, the box that they came in was probably worth more than the shoes. But this is the latest acquisition, all the way from Wellington, New Zealand. And I bought them in Wellington, New Zealand on our last tour through Australia. And then I have this one here, which is from New York. The second to last pair that I bought from New York. Now, I don't know if you can see that in all its glory. If I put
Those
it up
are
there.
fancy.
I'll give you the other side. Yeah. Now, my wife looks at these and she thinks right away that I'm Breaking Bad, right? You know, the guys from the cartel. Yeah, exactly. So I got those going on. But these are my latest acquisitions, and these came from New York. And the greatest thing about these in particular is that I've got about 2 or 3 models that are pretty much like those. And even though people will come and they'll say, wow, those are really fancy shoes, they must be expensive. In reality, nobody else wants them. So they bring them in and they end up going up on sale at some point in time. And then I walk in and I go, wow, those would look great on stage. And I think we talked about the on stage thing with the shoes last time. So you know what that's like. So those are the 2 latest additions to the to the wardrobe. And of course, when they travel in the suitcase, they get flattened or whatever. So I got to stretch them out and do whatever I can to keep them alive. And of course, the biggest problem is well, where are we playing and which pair of shoes is most appropriate for this setting, right? And so theaters and stuff like that, where I'm walking across the stage, you can actually see the shoes. They usually get these kind, and then I have a more like utilitarian shoe that I wear just whenever. So those are the last 2 that came into the into the mix.
It wouldn't be a Mitch interview if I didn't ask about the shoes. And I have a bunch of fan questions that I'm going to sprinkle in throughout the interview. And I thought I would kick off the interview by asking about your shoes because we have this question from Terry Brown. Terry says, since I already asked him why his cymbals are so damn high, please ask Mitch the story behind his favorite pair of shoes.
Well, the favorite ones are the very first ones. And the very first ones came from San Giovanni in Italy. And my wife and I were on holiday, and we got up nice and early that morning. Went out for the 2 hour car ride to get there. We were in Siena at the time. Got into San Giovanni, and like 2 minutes into arrival, we're walking by this shoe store. I look over and I see these shoes that are blue and brown and leather. They kind of look like bowling shoes, but way nicer. And I looked at them and I said, wow, those are nice shoes. Like, I got to get a pair of those kinds of shoes. They were the very first pair. And she said, why don't you just go in and try them on? And I said, Tony, come on. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I buy a pair of shoes. I'm going to have to carry these things around all day long. We're not doing it. She said, no, come on, let's go and let's go give them a shot. So I went in, I put them on. I kid you not, slippers. You just put them on. I didn't want to take them off. They were so comfortable. They felt so good. So I said, okay, we'll come back later. We'll pick them up later, see what happens. She said, well, no, why don't you go try those ones over there? There was another pair, like red ones or something. So I went to try those on. And while I was trying those on, she bought the blue and brown ones that I now have. I didn't want to carry them around, so what I did was I had sandals on. I tied the sandals on my belt, and I wore like brand new shoes right out of the box, walking all day through San Giovanni, Italy. And no blisters on my feet, nothing. Just happy shoes. And they are more, they're more the kind of style of shoe that you would see a drummer wearing. They're mold to your feet. They're not. There's no high heel on them. They're very utilitarian kind of, but they're beautiful shoes. And every time I put those shoes on, I just feel light on my feet. I feel that they look great. Of course, everybody comes along with their comment about, "Oh, are you going bowling?" But that's we don't care about that. I put those on. Those are definitely my favorite shoes out of all the ones that I have.
There's a girl on TikTok and Instagram, on social media. She's a drummer. She gets a ton of views. She's very good. And she drums in like a skirt and high heels, which is part of like what gets the clicks. But she's awesome. And I wonder, like, you can get away with high heels for 1 3-minute video, but do you think you can get away with that for an entire set? Like if she was headlining an hour and a half show, how much do you think the high heels would get in the way of your actual drumming?
Well, to that, I will say this. There's a very wonderful interview with Ginger Rogers. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they're talking to Ginger Rogers about what it's like to dance, or can you keep up to Fred Astaire? And she turns around and she says, not only can I keep up to Fred Astaire, but I can keep up to him in heels, right? I don't know if you've ever seen them dance together, but she's always got high heels on. They're not 6-inch stilettos or anything, but she's wearing high heels. And you know what? It's whatever you're comfortable in. And I for some reason, I don't know why it is, I cannot wear heels. If I've got a 2-inch heel or a 1-inch heel on my shoe, I feel awkward. I feel unbalanced. I definitely wouldn't be very comfortable playing in them. But if you wear heels all day, and like that's just what you're used to, then why wouldn't you be able to do it? I don't know. I go back to, I remember Ginger Rogers saying that, and she looked into the camera. It's like, yeah, I do what he does, and I do it in heels. So yeah, I definitely, if she can do it, I'd probably go the whole night, no problem.
We had you on the podcast in September of 2023. This was back on episode 110. And we did a full 2 hour deep dive interview. We covered your life, your career, your discography. So if our listeners haven't checked that out, go check that out to get the full Mitch story, because today we're going to be doing something different. We're going to catch up for a little bit. We're going to talk about what you've been up to, what the band has been up to since September of 2023. But then we're going to dive into your 5 favorite albums. And man, I sunk my teeth into these 5 albums. There's some great picks. I'm excited to get to those. My first question is, are you still getting up early and taking out your dog for a walk? You take your bike, you take a great camera, you document this with some pictures. Is that still a thing, or did we leave that back in 2023?
No, Sadie goes for the run every morning. She's right here, curled up at my feet right now. So she's a German Shepherd, and she's got unlimited energy. It just seems, and I don't know if it's the energy, but there's that thing that you see with people, like their dog would run with them all the way to Arizona, just because they're with the person that they love, right? That's what she is. She will run with me, and no matter where I go, no matter how far I go. Um, but she's a shepherd, and she needs to disperse the energy. It has to go. If it doesn't go, then other stuff in the house starts going. Shoes disappear, her toys get ripped
Not the
up.
shoe collection.
No, not the shoe collection, not the shoe collection. No, any shoe that's at the back door
Is
is
that the
open.
main reason why you keep them with the band in the truck?
Well, it might be a reason, but it gets expensive flying around with a suitcase full of shoes. So yes, we do. I ride the bike. She runs. We do 5K in the morning, and we usually do 5K in the evening. And I don't. I don't know if you've noticed. Obviously, you have because you've seen the pictures. But she hates looking at the camera. She just absolutely hates looking at the camera. She will come to me, stare me down at any point in time. But as soon as I take the camera out, she just looks away. I
It's
don't
always
know if
off in
she's
the
if she,
distance.
yeah, maybe, or she's just like, no, I'm not looking. This is going to give me, this is going to possess my soul or something. I don't know what she's got going on, but to get her to look at the camera is nearly impossible. And even though, I don't know if you saw yesterday's picture, but I had Zuri with me, which is my daughter's dog. They're both shepherds, except she's a black shepherd. She will look at the camera. Just for fun. If it's sitting on the counter, she'll go look in the camera. But Sadie, no, will not look at the camera. So your question, no. The runs continue. They have not stopped. And anytime that it's just a little bit warmer, I do try to get a photograph of her. I think the most common thing that I get via Facebook anyway is haven't seen Sadie in a couple of days. The second one would be what shoes are you wearing for the show? The first one would be haven't seen Sadie in a couple of days. Where's Sadie? So yes, that will continue for as long as she wants to run.
Shortly after the last interview, we actually ended up at the same concert here in Ottawa. We went to see Peter Gabriel. So I brought my dad and my mom to the concert. I live within walking distance, but you came from out of province. So how did we end up at the same concert in Ottawa when you don't even live in Ontario?
Well, Peter Gabriel was on my bucket list as a show that I always wanted to see. Um, Peter Gabriel was very instrumental in the early days. When I was playing in cover bands and I was doing all that kind of stuff, we did a lot of Peter Gabriel. I really liked what Peter Gabriel did musically. I was always a big fan of just about everything that he did, and for some reason or other, he stopped touring for a while, and then all of a sudden resurfaced. And I think in the first 5 shows, I think Ottawa was one of the first stops in the first 5 shows. So I just grabbed Tony and said, "We're going to Ottawa, and we're going to see Peter Gabriel." And we flew in specifically to go. And bonus, you were there. And it was awesome to hang out with you and your parents. I thought that they were amazing people. And you did join us for a beverage afterwards, did you not? Yes, you did.
We hung out outside for a bit. I can't remember if we went in, but we definitely spent some time talking outside the arena. And did you spend time a few days in Ottawa, the Byward Market? Did you do anything cool in Ottawa?
Next day. Next day we went in, and I have a friend that lives. I think Stephen Larkin was there when we went to visit, and so we hung out with them for a good part of the day, and then yeah, of course, we went in and then did the market, and yes, there's a Fluvog show store in the market, and yes, I got a pair of Fluvogs while I was there on sale. But I did manage to spend some quality time in Ottawa.
We got a comment sent in. This is from Brenda Adamson, who says, "This is fantastic news." Once she saw that we were doing the interview, she said, "He is an awesome one." So just short and sweet from Brenda, just showing some love.
Oh, you know what? She's amazing. She truly is amazing. She she lives in the southern states, and tries to come out to any of the shows that I shouldn't even say that. I think she's actually flown into a couple of the shows to just to come and see us, and she is the most kind, respectful, loving person. She doesn't come and say, "Hey, I've flown in all the way from wherever I've flown in from. Can I come backstage? Can I do all that kind of stuff?" No, she will come to a show, and we'll find out that she's there because she'll say, "Oh, been in line for 15 minutes," or look at our great seats that we've got. She doesn't try to get tickets from us. She just comes out to the show. She sees the show, and if we happen to come out, which I usually do, if we happen to come out and say hello to some people, I'll see her, and she's almost apologetic about coming over and saying hello. Just a wonderful human being.
Over the last few years, Crash Test Dummies has been doing a lot of international touring. You've been doing the 30th anniversary of God Shuffled His Feet. What are some of the highlights from those international shows?
I think I have a two-part answer for that. So we've made some changes in the band. One of them being is our keyboard player is now Leith Fleming Smith, who first of all, I should go back. Something that we talked about before was that, to me, one of the magical things about Crash Test Dummies is that it's made up of, I mean, there's six of us, but the four core group are four individuals, is the best way to put it. We're not alike. None of us are alike in any way, shape, or form. Our music loves, our style of music, what we contribute. It's not like we all hang out together and listen to the same things and do the same things. Four very different people, and with Stuart Cameron on guitar and Leith Fleming Smith on keyboards, we've got two people that are also two different people. So now we've got this core group of six people who are very different, and I've always said that our differences is really what contributes to what Crash Test Dummies is. And going out for the last couple of years, because I think Leith had maybe played a show with us last time we talked, I wasn't sure, but he brings something to the stage, completely a Leith Fleming Smith thing. It's not a Crash Test Dummies. They look and they go, "Who is this guy? This is amazing." Because all he's got to do is walk out there. He's got a wonderful stage presence. He's just full of love. And Stuart is also he's got this thing that says, "I'm Stuart Cameron," without having to. He doesn't step out and lift his arms and say, "Hey, I'm here." He just walks out on stage, and he has this presence that he brings to the stage. So now we've got fans that are coming out and they're seeing us, and no one is more thankful to the fans than I am. It's so awesome that these people come out. We were in Australia, going through Australia since last we talked, and you're probably going to ask this question at some point or other, but how was Australia? We hadn't been to Australia in 30 years. And when we got there, it was phenomenal. It really was. People were coming out to the shows like it was the first time that we were there. So many people, so many people were. I never, ever, ever thought that I would have the opportunity to see you guys live. And here we are. And I don't know what they were expecting. Were they expecting a bunch of old codgers to get up there and play the songs of yesteryear? They certainly weren't expecting Leith, and they certainly weren't expecting Stewart. I can tell you that. And they just got so much more than they came for, and because that's really what the band brings to the stage. And all the shows that we've done since we've talked last, and it's been quite a few shows, they've all been wonderful. They've just been like getting out there and watching Leith do what he does, what he brings to the stage. He just brings this energy. Stewart brings this because he's got all the guitar work on his back. Brad's playing some guitar, but Stewart's holding the guitar world down, and they're just bringing this other dimension. And I don't think that people are expecting that other dimension. So they're getting so much more than what they came for. The smiles are there. We're getting the feedback that we're getting is like, wow, I like you guys haven't missed a beat, just like you were 30 years ago. And that has been fantastic. You know what? I'm 65, and to be playing drums and touring like we are, I never would have thought would have happened when I was 40. And here we are tearing up the world, and it's phenomenal. It really is, and it's fun. We're not just laying back and playing the tunes. We're rocking it, and everybody's in the same mind space, and that is fantastic.
Crash Test Dummies have such a unique sound. Like, instantly it's that band. Do you think that's because, like you mentioned, the members are so unique and have their own flavor and enjoy their own types of music, that instead of having a band where it's only taking from a few influences, there's all these influences across the board for each individual member. So when you bring everything together, it's kind of this soup that no one else can make.
Well, I don't know if nobody else can make it, but there's definitely first of all, when you got a bass baritone singing lead vocals, there's one little tidbit. Two, when the principal writer of the band happens to be double honors in philosophy and literature, so the lyrics tend to be a little bit more than, I love you, let's shag in the back. And not that there's anything wrong with that either, but you know what I mean. The lyrics tend to be just a little bit deeper than normal. You've got Ellen, who has a very, very unique voice. Sorry, that's just not right. She has a unique voice. It can't be very unique. You're unique or you're not. She's what she brings to the table, and her presence and the way that she approaches things. It's just you can't cookie cutter Brad, and you can't cookie cutter Ellen. Now, I bring what I bring as a drummer, and I've always tried to be what the band needs and not what I need. If you know what I mean.
Do you mean like servicing the song, what's best for the song? Because you're a great
Exactly.
drummer. You could overplay easily, but sometimes you got to hold back for what the song requires.
Exactly. It's about what does the song need, what does the music need, and it's not about whether people are sitting out there going, "Oh, he's a great drummer, he's not a great." I don't care. I've always tried to bring uh, my own unique stand sample of what I think needs to happen. Dan is again, the way that he looks at bass is very musical, but he's also looking for the foundation. So he's very, very aware of what I'm doing, but he's also not worried about whether anybody thinks he's a good bass player or not. He's thinking about, actually both of us together as a rhythm section. Um, I'll put it to you this way: from the rhythm section point of view, uh, people spend the majority of their time in the audience staring up at Brad or looking at Ellen, or maybe they're looking at Leith because Leith is up front and he's doing his thing, or maybe Stewart is controlling the situation. What Dan and I, because we never really step out front, I'm looking at these people and they're looking up at Brad, but they're moving, they're dancing, and the reason they're dancing is because we're doing our gig. And if we're doing our gig and they're dancing, we're doing our job, and it means that we're doing it well. And that is the biggest um, compliment that one could take, I think. So, and because everybody is different, we approach music differently. We're dealing with things like bass baritones, and we're dealing with things like the Wall of Ellen. And the reason I call it the Wall of Ellen is that if you listen to any of those records, you can see that there's a lot of Ellen in there. But really, no one sounds like Ellen except Ellen. There's something about her that says there's no one else that can do this except you. So all those things together really do contribute to, something that works. And the songs are thought of as well, right? I mean, in the old days, Brad would come to us and he'd say, "Okay, here's some songs that I've written," and we'd take them and dissect them and tear them apart and put them back together again. He'd be very receptive as to what we were doing. Everybody was thinking about how how is this as a whole, and nobody thinks about if this is really good, are they going to thank me for it? You know what I mean? So that I think would be probably more accurate to say. I think you probably said it better than I just said it. I should just shut up.
It wouldn't be a good interview if you just shut up. But I did an interview with Widemouth Mason frontman Sean Varro. And then shortly after that, on July 26, 2025, you guys played in Medicine Hat with Widemouth Mason. And you sent me a funny picture of you and him together. I believe you were perhaps giving the finger, or he was, or both of you were, and it got a good reception. What makes Widemouth Mason so good and Sean Varro so good, and what was it like to play with them? You probably had a history before that show, and you were reconnecting there.
We did a few shows with them way, way, way in the past. Hadn't seen them in a long time. First of all, we talk about Canadian writers, Canadian guitar players, and they don't all get their day in the sun. And Sean is an amazing guitar player, and when I say amazing guitar player, is that he's somebody that when he puts a guitar in his hands, he catches your attention, and he's a beautiful human being on top of that. I mean, really, what more can you ask for? The band has been a solid force for years, and when we were playing with them in Medicine Hat, we hadn't seen them for quite a while. I haven't seen them in quite a while. And when I heard that they were on the roster, I was like, "Whoa, hey, this is going to be fun." And unfortunately, we missed half the show because our hotel was like an hour away, but we did manage to get in, and we caught at least the last half of it. And again, I sat in the wings, and just he just plays so well. Without trying to, it's just an extension of who he is. And White Mouth Face, like there's another band that's in support of what makes the music best all the way around. Nobody's trying to say, and even Sean, who is a star in his own right, is not doing his thing where he's saying, "Well, I'm the star of this show. We're doing our thing and we're making you move and it's going to be great." So playing with them is a pleasure because they're professionals and they know when to be in the way and when not to be in the way. They've got great sense of humor. What more can you ask for? Like there's no star problem in that band. And the fact that he had just done that interview with you was a great moment for us to have a little fun with you. There's a lot of pictures we took I didn't send you, so.
That's funny. I saw you guys at Blues Fest a few years ago, and then I saw Widemouth Mason with the Tea Party, another amazing Canadian band. So I got to see Sean Varro shredded up live and in the flesh as well.
Yeah, isn't he a great player?
Oh, he's so good and so unique, being able to do the slide guitar and all the different variations of the guitar.
He has a lot of experience on playing, and it's not so much about technique and anything else. He just knows what works, and that's such a lovely thing to have around you when you're playing someplace, right? Not trying to be a star, just is.
You guys released some limited edition Crash Test Dummies turntables that had amazing artwork from the albums The Ghost That Haunt Me and God Shuffled His Feet. Are these still available? They looked pretty cool.
They are cool because there's something very vintage about them. I don't know a lot about them. This is My information might be wrong,
I think it was a
but
partnership with a company that makes them. It just looked like an amazing collector's edition if you're a Crash Test Dummies fan.
yeah, there's a gentleman in the States. He approached that he'd done these record players with a few other bands. I think Metallica was one.
Oh, just
I'm
Metallica.
trying to, yeah,
Just a little
and
band.
an album cover, and he's not trying to make a fortune. He's just got this idea that he thinks is really cool, and he said, okay, I want to take these albums because I like the artwork from these albums, and I'm going to put it in such a way so that everything gets seen. Have you seen the turntables? Like, yeah, they're pretty cool. I want to do it so that everything is seen, that they're really nice, that it doesn't look like it was made like in an art class or something like that. It looks like they were specifically made. I think he made a limited run. I think there's 200 of them that can be purchased. I'm not sure. So we carry two with us that we put on the merch table that when we're traveling. And so if somebody wants one, there's a QR code, and you go into the QR code and you get one, and we get a little bit from it. He gets a little bit from it, and 200 people out there that have something really cool because they are really cool and they're good. Like they're quality. They're not. They didn't come from Ed's bargain basement. He tried to make a really good thing that'll last. And I think that people that collect vinyl and do that kind of a thing, what more could you ask for? Especially if you're a Dummies fan.
I see that over the years you've done some Christmas shows. Is this every December you do this? Is it every few years?
Well, it's the last 2 years have been a Christmas run, and that's a uh, the Bare Naked Ladies can do that really easily because those guys are um, they can have a lot of fun with the festive season, and any opportunity to poke fun at something, they're in it 100%. And we're not. I don't think we're as fun as the Bare Naked Ladies are, and so for us to do something, it has to be within what Crash Test Dummies are, and we do a version of Jingle Bells, which, in my humble opinion, is probably the best version of Jingle Bells that exists on the planet. And it's first of all, it's done in a minor key, and it really like the instant feedback that we get is that it should be in a Tim Burton movie, right? It really does, like the Nightmare Before Christmas, like it really does fit in that movie.
It's a little
It's
haunting.
it's haunting. It's great, and nobody sees it coming. Nobody ever sees it coming, and because it starts off with a little cacophony, we kind of set the mood, and because it's a little heavy in the drums and the cacophony, um, the everybody's expecting, oh, they're going to play the Little Drummer Boy or something like that, and then we launch into Jingle Bells, and everybody loves it. You look out into the audience, and there's big smiles. If we only played that one song on our Christmas tour, it would be worth it uh, because everybody just sees it and wants to experience it. It's phenomenal. We do throw in a couple of other crash test dummy versions of, I think there's White Christmas, which is in there. It would be great to really hack up a few other ones, make them a little less traditional, but you really fall into a position where how many Christmas songs is too much Christmas songs? And there are a lot of fans that come out and that have said, we're really glad that you guys kept it down to like 5 Christmas songs. And then we got to experience Crash Test Dummies and have some Christmas spirit in there at the same time. And again, with the addition of Jingle Bells, it takes it up a notch because it's like it's not only is it Jingle Bells, but it's Crash Test Dummy Jingle Bells, and it's pretty awesome.
So you're
So
playing
is
the
that going to
Crash
happen
Test
next year?
Dummies hits as well as the
Yeah,
Christmas songs.
as well as the Christmas songs. Now, I mean, we'll see next year. I think what would be wonderful would either be to do the is it called the Christmas train, or I can't remember what it's called, the train that goes across the country, and Bare Naked Ladies did it last year. Um, And so this train, it goes across, and you get on the train, and it stops, and like all these little towns, and they fold down the stage, and then you play a few numbers. People all come out, you play a few numbers, they put it up, then you drive to the next town, and you put it down, and you play. Oh, I'd love to do that. And I also play with Fred Penner, right? So it'd be awesome to do like in one car do the Fred Penner show, and then and the next one do the Dummy show. That'd be phenomenal. It would be great to do that. But it would also be great to do like a cross Canada a Christmas show, like start in Halifax and stop in every town along the way. I think would be amazing, and that would to me would be more of the Christmas tour. You know what I mean? And it would be all of December or maybe late November, early December. I think that would be a lot of fun. But it has been fun, that's for sure.
We have perhaps the most important question of the entire interview. This is sent in from Yolana Yerex. And the question is, does he still love wearing harem pants?
Whoa, wow. No, the harem pants went out a long time ago.
I actually had to Google what harem pants were, but now I know. They're
Oh,
like the MC Hammer pants where he dances side to side
yep.
and they're yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So back in the day, we used to play in a band called Sally Screw and the Drivers, and there was another band that we played with at the time. Was the Jacques Lussier band, and three of us, the keyboard player, myself, and Don Benedictson, who was the bass player, the three of us you'd always find in harem pants. It was halfway between comfort and the other side would have been, I guess, a bit of a costume or a look. I think Jacques wore them too. So there were at least four of us on stage that had these things, and but they were super comfortable. And it was the 70s and 80s. What do you want? So no, they went out. They went out in mid 80s and haven't been back since.
It's hard to wear harem pants with the nice shoes that you wear. They just don't work together.
No, 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 yeah, no, no, yeah. Shoes win over harem pants, hands down.
So I have to ask the next question on behalf of the Crash Test Dummies fans. I'm asking on behalf of myself as a fan. The last song that you guys released, this is in early 2023. Are there any plans for new music? You can say, Joel, take a bus. Next question, but I have to ask on behalf of the fans.
Sacred Alphabet, which was the very last thing that was done. Brad's been writing more tunes, like string quartets, those kinds of things. He's been exploring those. We've been trying to encourage him to do more, let's say, dummies projects. But I think a lot of it is time and inspiration. Right now, I think he's more focused on Bach and string quartets, trying to exercise his chops in that realm. I'm not going to say that there isn't anything coming out, because the more we play, the more that comes up. So as an example, we've incorporated Sacred Alphabet into the set, and people seem to be digging it. And it's not a radio friendly hit kind of a song, but people are digging it, and so that's kind of good. A little bit more underground. So that's encouraging to keep going down that road. But you kind of get thwarted a little bit because the industry is not what it was, and to take a bunch of songs and record them, that comes at a fair expense. Uh, People aren't really buying CDs. They're buying some vinyl and not a ton. And so you got to ask yourself, is it worth the expense of recording all these things and maybe sell a few hundred or maybe sell a few thousand. But people aren't as soon as someone takes it and puts it on YouTube or gets it into Spotify, it goes into their playlist and thank you very much and it's done. So it's really, if we can, I think as new tunes come out, they'll get put into the live show. And if you happen to be at the live show and you catch the new tune, that'd be great. There is talk of taking some of the tunes that are in the live show. For instance, Uh, I'm just trying to think of I'm just trying to think of what's been recorded, and it's not coming to me right now what's been recorded. But there's been a few tunes that we've got into the live show that are from other records that they've changed due to just playing them live and wanting to develop them a little bit further. So there's been talk of taking some of those live performances that were done really well and then incorporate two or three recorded tunes and put that into one record and sell that as something. I'm not sure how that's going to come together, but there's rumor that that's going to happen. Just when again, if we're out and we're doing a run of 90 shows or something like that, there's a pretty good chance that maybe we'll be able to sell some because they've just heard them and they're not available on any other records. So that might happen. But yeah, I'd like to tell you that we're hard at it and we got the vinyl being pressed right now, but no.
Yeah, maybe the future isn't releasing a full-length album. Maybe it's just releasing one song at a time, so it's not a super expensive, long project. It's, hey, here's one new song, everyone can get excited, it's in our set, that kind of thing. I checked the band's website and there's some upcoming shows. So there's two shows coming up in Canada in August, and then a bunch of shows in Ireland, Scotland, and the UK in October. What can fans expect if they go right now and they buy a ticket to any of those shows if they've never seen a Crash Test Dummies show before?
I think the shows are way more energetic than Crash Test Dummy shows have been in the past. Now I'm gonna rephrase that. If you came to a Crash Test Dummy show in 1993 or 1994, there was a fair amount of energy on stage. And by energy, I don't mean, people doing backflips and pyrotechnics. What I mean is, we had Ben who was on multi instruments all the time, and he would dance around. He was moving around. He had a vibe that he gave off. Everybody was, I was nailed down, obviously, with the drums, and Ellen was stuck behind the keyboard, and so there was none of that kind of stuff going on. But now with Stewart uh, taking a little bit more, he's taking up more space on stage, which is really great because he deserves that space. He's animated, and it's nice to see him given the opportunity to be animated. And we've got Leith, who's also very animated when he plays. So people are getting way more energy, and I think personally, I think the songs that we're playing live are better than the recordings. Uh, I don't listen to the recordings and go, oh, geez, wow, I wish we sounded like this. No, I listen to the recordings and I kind of go, wow, like we should re-record these tunes because they're rocking now. So they're going to get a much more dynamic view of what the band is compared to what it was in the old days.
Do you think those two Canadian shows in August and then that tour in October, do you think that'll be it for shows for Crash Test Dummies in 2026? Or do you have a feeling there might be a few shows or festivals added to that?
Well, there's a whole bunch of shows in November on the West Coast. That'll be happening. I don't know if they've been posted yet, but they're going to be coming up. So it's going to be, I think there's 5 shows on the island, and there's probably a few shows in BC proper. Um, and then, yeah, there might be a few shows that'll be sprinkled in throughout the summer, depending on what comes up. I know some festivals are still trying to, we're not trying to put a tour together for Canada, except for those November dates. So if a few shows pop up, I think that'll be fine and welcomed. We're going into Australia in the new year, and so that's going to be awesome.
It seems to be one of your favorite places now to play. We're going to dive into your 5 favorite albums, and we have a fan question that it's a nice segue. So this is from Paul Peltier, and he says, in the early days of Mitch Dorge, he was influenced by groups such as Queen, 10cc, and Steely Dan, and in turn, that influenced me. I'm wondering if some of those albums are still on his list. So we're going to go through your 5 favorite albums. He's wondering if somewhere in there is Queen, 10cc, and Steely Dan.
That opens up Pandora's box a little, in that Paul's a beautiful human being, by the way. Did he mention Sheer Heart Attack? Did you just say that? Or did you just say
He
Queen?
did. So he said Queen in brackets, Sheer Heart Attack. I just didn't
Okay, the reason
mention.
I say Sheer Heart Attack is that because that was the I had two Queen albums, and I had Queen 1 and I had Sheer Heart Attack, and I didn't talk about Queen 1 very much. So Sheer Heart Attack would have been like the time that Paul and I used to hang together a lot more, and I think I remember, hey man, you got to listen to this record. So um, one of my top five is an album called Four and More from Miles Davis. And so right around that time, so I would have been about 14 or 15, 13, 14 or 15, somewhere in there. And the first Queen record came out, I think in 1973, 74, somewhere in there. That was Queen 1. Sheer Heart Attack, I think, was around 1974, 75, somewhere in there. I'm not sure. Um, but I was standing in a music store. I think we talked about this last time, but this is the back end of that story. And I remember standing at the counter, and I had my Queen T-shirt on, and it was just a black one, and it just said Queen on it. And a fellow by the name of Jean-Marc Marion came in, and I happened to be with another friend of mine, Brent Ross. And Jean-Marc came up to the counter and said, "Hey, do you know any good drummers?" And my buddy Brent was right there, and he said, "This is my friend Mitch. He's the best drummer in the world." Like he was just
Your
a
hype
real
man.
friend, and the hype man. And I was like, "Dude, like, come on, like you're this is don't say these kinds of things." And so he said, "Hey, do you want to come and like we're having a jam this afternoon in my friend's garage and everything else?" So I went to this jam with the same black T-shirt that I had on, which was Queen, and that's what I was listening to at the time. And Sheer Heart Attack at the time was probably actually the first record I liked probably a little bit more, but Sheer Heart Attack was new at the time, and I was listening to that a lot. And I met this bass player in this jam that they were having. His name was John Zilak, and John completely turned my musical life around. I went from Sheer Heart Attack, which I still like and I liked then, but John introduced me to Miles Davis and introduced me to Lenny White and Billy Cobham and introduced me to Louis Armstrong and Oscar Peterson and Les Paul, not like the guitar player Les Paul. Introduced me to Art Blakey and introduced me to Jaco Pastorius and Weather Report and all these things. And I my musical love just went a different direction. I didn't hate the music that I listened to. It just went in a different direction. And it was right at that time when I would have been saying to Paul, "Hey, Sheer Heart Attacks is this great record, and you should, this is fantastic." And so I went that direction. And also, one of the people in that organization also introduced me to Steely Dan, which I really didn't know that much about because we put a band together and we were playing Reeling in the Years, and I was saying, "Wow, like this is all great music." Um, Now, I'm going to sidestep you just for a second. When you contacted me and said we want to talk about your five favorite records, I mean, man, it's easy to say, "Oh yeah, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one," but for me, that is a far, far deeper question. And it's plagued me actually ever since that you brought it up, which is 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something like that. I, like you floored me because one of the big things that came up was, well, what's my criteria for my favorite record? And the reason I bring that up right now is you're mentioning Paul asking about whether those records are still my favorites. And I can go back and I can listen to those records. I still listen to Steely Dan from time to time. And Queen still shows up from time to time. 10cc still shows up from time to time. But When I listen to them nostalgically. They were a part of my musical past, my musical history, the things that I did, the things that I loved. They were part of it. I still think that those records are great, but they're nostalgic for me. I don't sit down and listen to them and say these are the best albums ever. Maybe I could if I started listening to them. You know, Asia, which is a Steely Dan record. My daughter's name is Asia from the Steely Dan. It's the AJA, same as that record. Now, is it because I love Steely Dan? Is it because I love that record? Or is it because I saw the name and thought it was really unique and I said to myself, if I ever had a daughter, I'd want to name her Asia? I don't know. But those albums, those records, those bands are still really a part of my life nostalgically, but I wouldn't go back and say those were my favorite records. So, Paul, if you're listening to this, yes, I still own those records. I don't listen to them very much because I have a lot of other music that I listen to. But thanks for bringing like those memories up because they're still great records.
Every guest that I've had on the My Five Favorite Albums series has said the same thing. You know, I have 20 favorite albums, and whatever five we're going to talk about are just the five we're going to talk about on that day. If we did the interview tomorrow, it might be a different five. And the same thing, it depends what the criteria is. Because if you were just going with these are the five greatest albums I've ever heard, that's one thing. If it's the most important albums in my life where they remind me of a certain period of time that was important, or if it was an album that changed who I was as a musician and sent me in this direction. Like there's so many criteria. And one cool thing is when I had Jeff Pierce from Moist, the bass player, to just make it a little different, he chose one album from each decade. So he did 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, so that there was something that allowed him to pick that one over this one and this one over that one. So in your case, what we'll do is you can list the five albums and then we'll dive into each one individually. And at the end, you can list off your favorite albums, the honorable mentions that we don't have time to talk about. And that clears things up. If you can at least mention the other favorites, then you don't have that on your conscience. Why didn't I mention this Beatles album, or why didn't I mention that album?
The five that I picked are picked on a very solid. My criteria for picking those records are very solid. I just like that. Okay, I'm going to pick this one because of this or that. Each one that I picked has a very specific reason for being picked, and I wanted to make sure that I could back that up. And so what I did is after I sent you those is I listened to them front to back, each one of them again, and to confirm that why I picked those albums is why I picked those albums. In terms of honorable mentions, we're going into the hundreds, so I'll spare you that. But you know what? I can maybe I will reference some as we go along. But anyone that I would reference might have the base that these five come from.
Can you list the five albums so our listeners know what we're going to dive into moving forward?
Four and More from Miles Davis. The Cologne Concert, pronounced Cologne, as in Cologne, Germany, from Keith Jarrett. I think when you asked me, the first word that came right out of my mouth, right out of the bat, was The Downward Spiral from Nine Inch Nails, which is an awesome one. Soulwax, which is
Much Against.
Yeah, Much Against Everyone's Advice. And the last one is Propellarheads, which I think is Decks and Drums and Rock and Roll.
And it's all one word, which is funny.
Yeah, it's all one word.
Word.
Yeah. And so those are the five that I'm going to run with.
If we can, let's start with Nine Inch Nails, because that is my favorite album from the five that you chose. So I'm locked and loaded, ready to talk about this album, if that's okay with you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll let you lead on that one because it touched the nerve with you too.
Yeah, so Downward Spiral, this comes out in 1994, Nine Inch Nails. This is their second studio album after Pretty Hate Machine, which was like a groundbreaking album. I think it came out in about 89, something like that, and kind of led the revolution of that heavy electronic music. Do you remember the first time you heard of Nine Inch Nails? And do you remember the first time this album specifically came into your life, the Downward Spiral?
Well, so we were in Royal Studios in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. We were recording God Shoveled His Feet. And at the time, I think one of the texts that was there was talking about the band that was in there before us, and there were needles all over the place, and it was quite the adventure, and so they were talking about Nine Inch Nails, and but I at the time I didn't know who Nine Inch Nails were, and so we're going to fast forward a little bit. I think I believe we were touring with Mila, and we played a show in Los Angeles, and they said, thank God it's an early show because Nine Inch Nails is playing tonight, and we want to run out and go see Nine Inch Nails after the show. And so I was like, well, Nine Inch Nails, I like, here they are again. It's coming into my radar. So, I didn't go to the show. I was dead tired. I didn't have a chance to go to the show. And then we were playing in Norfolk, Virginia. And in our hotel, or beside our hotel, I think it might have been in our hotel that we were staying in, also was Marilyn Manson. And there were people outside. They were protesting. They were doing all this kind of stuff. It was really strange. And then the news was talking about how Marilyn Manson was making such a ruckus and all this kind of stuff. And then someone along the line said, Marilyn's living off his reputation with Nine Inch Nails. Like again, Nine Inch Nails comes up. So at some point, I ended up going over, and I believe I can't even remember how I found it, but it was on I think it was on YouTube. Was I on YouTube? 94. Nope. That might have been. And I caught the first tune off the album, and I said, like, this is great. For some reason, I expected Nine Inch Nails to be match 20 or something. I
Matchbox
don't know
20?
why. Matchbox 20. And but it sure wasn't. And right from the word go, I had a 94 Mustang 5.0, and it had a 6 CD changer in it. I had that car for 2 years. Only 2 CDs ever played in that car, and the Downward Spiral was one of them. And it for 2 years, it's all I listened to in that car for 2 years. Now I could go into a lot more, but I'll let you keep going. So to answer your question, they just didn't show up one day. There was a bunch of things that played into it, and I didn't know who they were until after the Manson thing. I said, okay, I got to figure out like who were Nine Inch Nails. It also might have been, I think, Nine Inch Nails or Trent Reznor. I don't know which one I think it was billed as Nine Inch Nails. Did part of the soundtrack, I think, for Seven. Was it Seven?
Yeah,
The
they
movie
did
Seven?
a remixed version of Closer is in the intro of Seven, the intro of the
Yeah,
movie.
and I think that also that was also a big influence there. Anyway,
This
so
this is such an angry and aggressive album. This clocks in at 65 minutes. This is like an hour and 5 minutes. It's just an assault on the senses, which is on purpose. Like they're building this image and this wall of sound and this collage, and it's considered a concept album. And I thought I would just read the description of it so people that haven't heard it can get a sense. So the description is This concept album chronicles the self-destructive descent of a misanthropic protagonist into madness, dehumanization, and suicide. Through a metaphorical downward spiral, the album explores profound and disturbing themes such as alienation, addiction, religion, violence, sex, power, depression, and the complete loss of control over oneself and one's surroundings. So that's like in words describing that album. Is that aptly an apt description for you?
I think it's pretty accurate. So earlier when I talked about criteria, what's the criteria? Um, Perhaps it had the opposite effect on me. I thought the album energized me. As dark as it is, it energized me. And I think the reason it energized me, I'm just going to sidestep one quick second. I had this conversation with my buddy Jason Charney about 5 top albums. I said, what are your, what are your 5? Like Joel's asking me about this and he's blah, 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 blah. Like, what do you think? And so, he came to me and he gave me a quick list of 5. But his criteria was fairly straightforward. And he just said, I love these albums because they make me feel good. And Nine Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral, I just thought it was honest. It was and is the downward spiral. Trent Reznor went through a lot of stuff. He was going through a lot of stuff. And I'm not saying going through like, suffering. I'm saying going through, he was living life at maximum volume. He was, life was maximum bass at all frequencies. It was a real life of turmoil and, self-discovery and everything else. And, as you know, I used to do, talk to a lot of kids in schools and stuff like that. And like, whether you want to call them the goth kids, like whatever, just the kids that didn't fit in, those were the kids that could identify with every song on that record. And I felt that record, and I still feel it today. I listen to it today and I feel the exact same thing that I did back in 94. It's angry. It's lost. It's hysterical. I don't mean hysterical funny. I mean hysterical and hysteria. I think it's full of rage, but at the same point in time, it's trying to articulate a feeling, a passage of life, and I think that it's what a lot of people feel but can't articulate, or might feel that there's something wrong with them if they tried to articulate it. And at times it's pretty dark. But I think it's honest. Like it's not contrived. I don't think someone sat down and said, well, we're going to make a record like this. I think it's where Trent was in his life at that time. And I could be wrong. You know these trivial things more than I do. It made me interested in what, where this music came from. And there were at the time, if you remember, like I think Rolling Stone in 94 or something like that, they were doing a big article on Trent Reznor and stuff like that. From that point, I'm going to go down the technical side of it. And there was an interview with Trent Reznor, and he was talking about using the KR 2000, the RK 2000, the KX 2000. It's a synthesizer made from Kurzweil, and a very, very, very complex instrument. And his approach to looking for those sounds were, and this isn't a direct quote, I'm paraphrasing, but I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just pushing buttons, and I think I just maxed everything out. I did whatever I could on this thing to try to get the sounds that I was looking for, and I thought, wow, like that isn't somebody finding pretty sounds and making music. This is somebody that with no idea how an instrument works and just diving in and making it work. So just flying by the seat of his pants to try to make sounds. And I think he did a really good job. But if you went back and asked him at that point in time, like, how did you do that? Like, I don't know. I don't know how he did it. I just push these buttons and turn these knobs, and it says I'm not supposed to be able to do that, but I did it. And then I put it through this and through that, and because I wanted it to sound insane, and it did. Like it's just honest on every level, right? Maybe too dark for some people, but I would drive around and just feel great, and the louder I played it, the better.
Almost every sound you hear on that album wasn't directly from the source. Like if he played guitar, he played it and then put it in the computer and put it through this and chopped it up and did this and put this backwards. And the drums, it's like they would play drums, but then they would take the drums and chop it up and put it through this. So everything you're hearing is like recreated in the studio and messed with to get the right feeling, sometimes more than the right sound.
Mm-hmm. And I did so successfully. I just don't, in terms of what my criteria was when I tried to pick my top five, one of the criterias is that that I felt that the album was honest and true. And of all the records I have, it's the one that I listened to, and every cut. Like that's also another piece of my criteria in my top five. Every cut, I listen to the whole thing, and I know what song's coming next, and I want to hear it. I'm not skipping, and if you get into each song, you can't help it. You just get sucked down the downward spiral. Like how much more can you ask for? What trivial pieces do you know about this record?
Oh, I got so many things I can say about this record. I'm stringing you along until we get to these little facts that I can drop in. But before the album was released, once it was complete, the label as well as some early listeners, they all thought this was career suicide. Like they had success with Pretty Hate Machine and they thought, okay, we got something. And then with this album, they just thought, man, this isn't a commercial album. This is so dark. It's so aggressive. But Trent Reznor, he didn't care because he didn't care about the commercial aspect. He thought this is faithful to the vision I have for the album. I feel like the album is complete. So as an artist, he was happy with what he did and he didn't really care about the commercial side. And then it debuts at number 2, sells like 110,000 first week, goes on to sell over 4.5 million. It's one of the most acclaimed and influential albums of the 90s. That cemented Nine Inch Nails as this global phenomenon. From there on out, Trent Reznor is this rock god, this sex symbol, labeled a genius, ahead of his time. So I thought that was pretty amazing that he's a true musician that delivered the product that he wanted with his vision, and he didn't care if it succeeded or not. And sometimes that's what it takes to have a big hit, is someone that just thinks outside of the box, and the world comes around to that vision. Like he's there first, and then people come to embrace what you've done.
Which is, I mean, what more can you ask for as an artist, right? And I don't know that much about Trent. I mean, I've read stuff. I'm pretty skeptical when it comes to media and what media says. And, if you happen to interview him and he happened to be in a bad mood that day, or maybe he wasn't as articulate as he could be that day. And so people make up their own ideas as to what that person is. But, again, I think coming from a band like Crash Test Dummies and knowing a lot of the inside tracks as to how things happen. I'd be quite curious as to what was there that wasn't Trent, right? That what other people were bringing to the table, and because very often, Trent might get the credit for doing a lot of things, but meanwhile it was the new guy that was putting mops away that dropped something and heard an echo and said, "I want that sound," and went after it. Those kinds of things, because a lot of stuff that's in there almost sounds accidental in some cases of that record. And there was something else that you mentioned that I was going to say that you nailed it. Nine Inch Nails in that format because there were 50 other bands that came out afterwards that were trying to be Nine Inch Nails because some A&R guy said Nine Inch Nails is really selling big right now, so let's get another one. But that energy, that thing that you get from Nine Inch Nails, is also the same kind of energy that I think you get from Econoline Crush. So I'm not saying that Trevor is trying to be
Nine Inch
like
Nails
Trevor
were a
Hurst.
big influence on Trevor and Econoline Crush. So I've
Yeah,
I've seen
but
some comments that say, "Oh, Econoline Crush is Canada's Nine Inch Nails."
yeah. So I wouldn't say they're Canada's Nine Inch Nails, but I can hear the influence. But I think Trevor Hurst um, comes by it honestly. I don't think he's trying to be that. I think Econoline Crush is what they are. But so you have Nine Inch Nails. We make maybe the comparison with Trevor Hurst and Econoline Crush. We made the comparison because, well, they're Canadian and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I think in that form, Trent or that album, The Downward Spiral, is it. That's the top of the pinnacle, and then everything goes down from there. Much like Nirvana, right? Like Nirvana's at the pinnacle there, and then there's a 4 million bands that sound like it, right? And I'm not putting down the 4 million bands that sound like it. Maybe those 4 million bands sounded like Nirvana, but Nirvana happened to be the one that got picked, right? Uh, Again, we don't know, but I just find that the energy in there is you can't get rid, you can't deny it. If you've got any rage in you and you listen to that record,
Oh, I have
it's
so
going to
much
come
rage in me. So I can relate to that album. A part of the mythology behind this album is it was recorded at the Tate House where the Manson murders took place. And they say that that's a part of that haunted vibe that you get with the album.
Yeah, uh, maybe. I
It makes
think
for a good story behind it.
it makes good for a good story. I mean, the setting is there, right? If the setting is inspirational, then it should be whatever it is. Case in point, when we were recording, um, um, I can recite things to you, but when I try to come up with things right off what's the name of our third record? A Worm's Life. There you go. So when I listened to A Worm's Life, when we were recording A Worm's Life, which we were recording in the Bahamas, the band that happened to be there just before us or two before us was Bjork. She was recording some stuff there, and for whatever reason, she wanted to. The story was is that she felt that she wanted to be standing in a boat in the water to record the vocals for this one particular song. And they kind of thought, like, okay, well, like, well, you're nuts. We'll do whatever we have to do to accommodate you. But if that's what inspired her to sing that track the way that she sung that track, then by all means, whatever it takes to get that inspiration to that thing out of you, you should do. And if being in the Tate House was the thing that did it for Trent, then by all means, right, like ride that wave, right? And it just makes sense, right? And I think that didn't Trent do the following record in Louisiana?
I think The
Um,
Fragile might be the next album.
yeah, was that done in Louisiana? I remember him. There was something about Louisiana in there, but again, the place that they were using was some weird old brothel or something. I can't remember. But still, um, to go back to what we were originally saying, that album lived in my Mustang for that amount of time. I never lost my love for that record, if you want to call it that. I don't, seems awfully. And the other day after we talked about it, I went back and it just felt like, oh, still a great record. Like, it's timeless. It still has the same impact on me now as it did back then. And I call it the adults window into the teenage angst.
This episode has been brought to you by the Women in the Music Industry podcast. It's hosted by music producer Rob Wells, who has worked with global superstars like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and Selena Gomez. Through his 1-hour interviews, he shines a spotlight on the remarkable women who are breaking barriers and making their mark in the music industry. Some of his notable guests include Morgan Lander of the multi-million selling metal band Kitty, and Pam Shane, who co-wrote Genie in a Bottle for Christina Aguilera. If you're a fan of the Joel Martin Mastery podcast, you'll love the Women in the Music Industry podcast, which is available on all platforms. I've seen an interview where Trent mentioned that two albums that really influenced the downward spiral, Pink Floyd's The Wall and David Bowie's Low, because they were very cinematic, they had textures, they were very atmospheric. So if you listen to The Wall and then you listen to Downward Spiral, you can see, even though they don't sound anything alike, you could see how one would be inspired by the other.
Absolutely, and even in the grandioseness of it, right? Like the wall is just this big thing that happens. There's nothing subtle about it, and there's those changes in tonal quality that happens also in the Nine Inch Nails. And you could, if you listen to them back to back, you can say, okay, I see the influence here, right? Even if it wasn't intended. Even if you didn't say, Trent might not have said, "Oh, okay, I want to do it so it sounds like that." But I think you could hear the influence in how that came together.
The two singles from the album, March of the Pigs and Closer, and then years later, Hurt would become a hit single for Johnny Cash, who re-recorded his version of that. I've heard that Closer is the most played song ever at strip clubs. Now, I don't know this personally, but I've heard that. The chorus, the I want to fuck you like an animal, like it's so dirty. And then the beat is just so grimy and dirty. And I just wanted to throw that in. Just a little trivia for you.
Yeah, it's funny you should bring that up because when I listen to it, I mean, I think that it's in the strip clubs, we're not dealing with model citizens, and I think maybe they can
How
identify
dare
with
you? How dare you, sir?
we have a different a different attachment to the lyrics because of the atmosphere that we're in. But I think that there's a lot of people that are experiencing um, anger and rage and maybe together where that is real. Like it's not the strip club atmosphere. It's a real right down and dirty. It's full of lust and desire, but not in a Hallmark way, you know. In the strip club, I think it just happens to be the atmosphere that you're in, and it seems appropriate that we would say that. But I think in the real world, in some small apartment in Skidsville in Los Angeles, that's happening, and those feelings are real. It's not, painting some picture. Like it's real, and these people are angry and they're full of rage, but you cross that with lust.
The iconic drums for the song Closer, the psh, ksh, psh, ksh, that thing, I had no idea, but that is sampled from an Iggy Pop song called Night Clubbing. So I had never heard that since 1994 until yesterday when I was doing my research. And I went and I listened to Iggy Pop Night Clubbing, and you can hear it's the start of the song Closer from Nine Inch Nails, but it's heavily modified, but you can hear it as the bass of the song Closer.
That's cool that he pulled that. I mean, and Iggy Pop's probably quite happy that he pulled it too, right? Some people would be angry and say you stole my thing, but I think Iggy Pop would say, right on, you did it, yeah. Again, another like so much cool stuff from that record, and artistically too.
Yeah, and even though there's not straight drum playing on there, for you as a drummer, I find there's so much interesting stuff going on drum wise that do you think maybe a little bit of that has to do with why you love it so much?
Um, Very rarely do I listen to music and listen to the drummer. I feel that
screw
if I
that
can hear the
guy.
drummer, no, if I can hear, if I'm hearing something too much, then they're not doing their job. I should be hearing the music as a whole. And in records like the Downward Spiral, if the drums are up front, it's not a drum thing, it's a feel thing. It's we want to make you feel something. Like very, very often in that particular record, the drums are either ridiculously up in your face and dry, or they sound like they're being recorded in a club bathroom three doors down, with the microphone up by the window. But it's meant to make you feel something from that. It's not just keeping a beat, right? It's not just, I like to dance to it and get some salsa. So the drums to me, when they stick out for a reason. And again, that's a musical thing, which you know, is what more can you ask for? Like if music affects you that way.
I have just a few more points about this album and then we'll move on to the next album. It received 2 Grammy nominations. One was for the song Hurt, Best Rock Song in 1996. And then the album, The Downward Spiral, was up for Best Alternative Music Album. So those are the Grammy nominations. The song Piggy, at the end of the song, there's like really frantic drumming that doesn't sound like it's quite in time with the song. And it turns out that that's actually Trent Reznor playing drums. It's the only thing he's playing drums on. And he was just testing out the drum sounds in the room. And he just liked the sound so much. He said, I have to put this on the record somewhere. So he just kind of spliced it into the song. That's why it's not quite in tune. He was testing the microphone setup in the studio. And that's what you're hearing, just the chaos at the end of Piggy.
It's just phenomenal that it got on there, right? Generally, things that aren't in time or that aren't, in the framework of what you've been listening to, generally producers say no, no, and record companies say no, 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 we don't want this because this is outside the realm of what's there. So the fact that he put it in there and stuck it in there and people love it, right? It just goes against the grain. If you want to go back and just push against the grain, when we did God Shoveled His Feet, that was also by the record company considered almost, band suicide. And so that the beginning of God Shoveled His Feet, that pss, pss, right? I did that in the studio with a little set of junior pros by Remo, and then we mic'd them up and everything else. And at the time, Annie Lennox was coming out with her record, and Y was there, and that was very big and lush and everything else. And so the record company wanted us to be big and lush. And so when we did that little thing, they were like, "Oh, no, 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 no! You guys are just not going to work." And boy, did that work to our advantage, right? It put a unique stamp on that thing. So that's way to go, Trent.
That's
or
awesome.
or whoever was making the call. Maybe it wasn't Trent. I don't know.
We just give him credit. The iconic cover art was created by Russell Mills under the title Wound, and he used plaster, oils, rusted metals, insects, blood, and bandages to evoke layers of pain hidden beneath seemingly beautiful surfaces. So I thought it's like a perfect visual description of the audio of the album.
Yeah, talk about, one big package.
Last thing is, I've seen Nine Inch Nails in concert around 2007 in Montreal and then around 2012 in Philadelphia. And I've said it over and over again. You can check the record going back 6 years on this podcast. Nine Inch Nails is the best band I've ever seen in my entire life. And both of those shows are #1 and #2 that I've ever seen. Have you ever seen Nine Inch Nails live? Because it is an experience.
Saw Nine Inch Nails live. My only regret of that is the friend of mine was doing me a favor and he's got box tickets at the arena and so he said, I know that you really like Nine Inch Nails. Here's my tickets for so I got to see Nine Inch Nails. I would have loved to have been on the floor and in the mayhem that was happening
For
down
that
there.
energy that you love about Nine
For that
Inch
energy.
Nails.
Yeah. And so my only regret is that I observed it rather than lived it. But it was great. The show was great. The what comes off stage, I think, is accurate to the record, and I don't mean sound wise. I mean energy wise. Right? Like when they sang, when he hurt, or when he did closer, um, uh, all those songs, the energy surpassed the songs. So, having them being your favorite concerts, I can totally understand that.
I have one fan question before we dive into the next album. This is from Leah Gervino. And the question is, I wonder if there were teachers whose ability to see and nurture his talent influenced the drummer that he is today, or even the person he is today.
Teachers, teachers, I a teacher that influenced me, no. Um, but a teacher that, let me rephrase that. I definitely had one teacher that influenced me that I had no idea influenced me at the time. Only later on in my career did the things that he taught me and said to me ring a bell. Like, because I wasn't, that thing when you're ready to learn, a teacher will appear, and I had the teacher, but I wasn't ready to hear what he had to say, and only later on in my career did it surface, and I said, oh, this is what he was talking about. And the other teacher, again, I wouldn't say it was an influence, um, but he did provide a little bit of an awakening because he was the first teacher that said, well, what do you want to do? As opposed to open up your book to page 7, or here we're going to do a paradiddle, or here we're going to do a single stroke roll, or here we're going to do. He just said, what do you want to do? And that floored me at the time because no one had ever asked me, well, what do you want to do? Like, here's the lesson plan. And and I said, I want to play that fill from Hawaii 5-0, or I want to, I want to play Smoke on the Water, or any of those tunes. And he'd be like, yeah, okay, all right, bring the record. Let's have a look at it. And but as an influence, maybe less of an influence, but more of an eye opener in terms of, like, there are other ways to teach.
The next album on your favorite albums list is the Propellarheads, Decks and Drums and Rock and Roll. This comes out in 1998. This is the only studio album by the electronic music duo Propellarheads. It's considered big beat. That's the style of music. What do you think makes this a great album?
Huh. Okay. If you haven't done this, try it. Play Propellerheads in your car. Play it reasonably loud, and don't get a speeding ticket. So that record, to me, touches t t touches things that are rare. One, it's a very techno record, very, very, very straight lines. Um, but there's always something going on, and they've somehow captured the groove on every song. I think I think you said you listened to it and you said it was groovy. It is. It's extremely groovy, and it's not fast paced. Knock your socks off. Like the sounds that are used. Like there's one tune called His Majesty's Secret Service. Yeah, you're playing that in your car and you're going on the highway. It's a total recipe for a speeding ticket. And as a matter of fact, most of the songs on there, like and I forgot again after we talked about it. I played it in my car and I'm driving along, and I said, "Yeah, I remember one of the big things I remember about this record is that when I cranked it, and Ellen was working out. We were playing. We were on the road, and Ellen was working out on the treadmill. And I came in, and she had a Walkman, or a Discman, I should say, and there were two discs that she had in front of her that were sitting on there. And I said, "Oh, what are you listening to?" And she said, "Well, this is my workout music. I listen to this because it charges me up." One of them was I think the Crystal Method, and or the Chemical Brothers. Can't remember. It might have been the Crystal Method, and the other one was the Propeller Heads. So I said, "Oh, I'll give this a listen." And I was immediately, I felt, I'm going to go back to Jason's thing. I immediately felt good. I did, like I was driving along and I just felt like this thing was pushing me. And the sounds, right? If you listen to it, there's lots of retro, movie samples that are in there. And they don't necessarily go together, right? Like Velvet Pants, uh, you know, like what? And you listen to what's going on in there, and then some of the movie things that they've taken, it seems like they've spliced them together, but they're just random sentences that don't necessarily make any sense. But you listen to it, and it captures you. You can't, like some things you okay, I've heard enough. I don't need to do this anymore. But in this thing, every time some of this it goes on too long, but it's not too long. It's just more. And when it's over, you kind of want more. Every song on that album, you want a little bit more. And it's not life changing. It doesn't make you go deep inside in your psyche. You just get charged up and you get speeding tickets.
There were 6 singles. It went gold in the UK and Australia. It was nominated for the Mercury Music Prize in 98, and it sold about 200,000 copies. If I could use just 2 words to describe it, it would be groovy, like you mentioned already, and cool. It's such a cool album. Again, I was driving while listening to it, and you just kind of get the bob going while it happens.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know that thing in movies where someone's driving along and all of a sudden the images are going by the vehicle and but the sound is gone and that's where it brings you. It just brings you to that position where you're in your vehicle, you're looking outside, but there's a soundtrack that's happening inside, and it's phenomenal. It just and come on, history repeats itself, or history repeating itself with Shirley Bassey. I mean, come on, how they got her to do it. Again, we get a lot of people going, hey, can Brad come and sing on this song or whatever, but Shirley Bassey, like to call her, hey, do you want to come and sing on this song? We're a techno couple guys and like, and she said yes, like, and could you picture anybody else singing that song? Anybody? Like, how perfect can you get? And, and I couldn't even see anybody trying to imitate that. Like, she just owns that song. It's so wonderful.
They knew what they were doing because that song went to #1 in Italy and the UK. And I have the liner note credits for the 2 members of the group. So Alex, you'll find this funny. Alex Gifford, the credit is general racket and production. And then Will White, the credit is drum set, skating, additional general racket, and production.
I I'd love to meet those guys. I know that they've done some things since then, not recording. I don't think they've done that much recording, but if that's their legacy, how much more of a gift? And obviously, they don't take themselves super seriously. So that's that like yet another thing that I think is just more so worthwhile. But as a record, um, when Ellen first introduced me to that record, which would probably be about 95, 96. When did they record it? 98? So,
98 it came out, yeah.
yeah, so 98. So, and that was new then. From the very first time that I heard it to listening to it now, I get the same feeling. I get the same, I feel charged up. I don't, if I go back and listen to, let's say, Led Zeppelin 2, I remember the songs and everything, but I go, oh, you know what? Like from a recording point of view, it could have used some help. But this one, I wouldn't change anything. It just sits in the pocket through the whole thing. And even though some of it's fairly straight ahead, like electronic on the grid, but they just feels right. I couldn't imagine playing it that much better than what they've done.
When I heard the song On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I thought it sounds like a mix of the White Stripes Seven Nation Army and a James Bond theme song. I didn't realize that that is from a James Bond theme song or sampled from or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, the horns. Yeah, isn't that cool?
I guess there was an actual James Bond theme song that was the basis of this song. Like they took that and
Yeah,
created the song around. I didn't know that. I just thought this
yeah,
sounds like a James Bond theme song, and I wasn't wrong, I guess.
yeah. You hadn't heard this record before, right?
No, no, that's the whole point of this is for me as well as the listeners to discover some all-time great albums that might have slipped through the cracks in our lives. So I'm
Yeah.
discovering, I think four of these albums I had not heard yet.
Well, I know you're probably a fan of this one, that's for sure. Nine Inch Nails, we agree on everything on this one. And now that you've got the Propellerheads going through you, and also I also really enjoyed with the Propellerheads because they do it a few times on the record. But back in the day when stereo first came out, one of the things that they would do is they would say, "This recording is in stereo. Now we're going to pan the letter cutter. We're going to pan it over to the right side, and then they play it on. And now we're going to pan it over to the left side, and then now we're going to slide it from right to left." And this was the new world of stereophonic, and people were this is amazing. And so for the first few years of stereophonic sound, things were exaggerated left and right. And I think that they do this on the Propellerheads. There's a couple of songs where they really exaggerate the left and right thing, and they also really exaggerate the television vibe. So like most of the voices that come in, except for I think Bigger's different. I've got bigger for you. Except for that one, a lot of the other ones are in Velvet Pants. But they take movie clips out, which clearly still have that old 2-inch speaker television sound. And you, if you've ever listened to an old television, you cue into it immediately. It's the first thing that hits you, even before what they're saying. You're going, I remember this movie. Not the words, but that sound, right? And they just tapped into it beautifully.
A few things about the song Take California. It was nominated for a Grammy in 99 for Best Rock Instrumental Performance. NPR recognized the song as one of 11 essential big beat songs. And I thought this was cool. Take California was used in the very first iPod commercial for Apple in 2001.
Wow. It was also in The Matrix, wasn't it?
Spy Break was in the Matrix and in the
Oh,
lobby
okay.
scene where there's just all the shooting and they're doing all the crazy stuff. The iconic
Right.
lobby scene, Spy Break kicks in.
Ah, okay. And were you a Matrix fan?
I remember 1999, so 85. So I was 14 when The Matrix came out, and man, that changed everything.
Right. But see, all these awards, all this recognition in a movie that you liked and you still didn't know who they were. I'm glad I brought it to your attention.
Yeah, I knew the song from then, but didn't hear who performed the song. The songs Echo and Bounce, as well as Bigger, they have that distinct kind of Daft Punk sound. I don't know how to describe it. It's such a delicious sound when you have the headphones on. I don't know how to describe it. The like I don't know. I don't know if that's making any sense, but it's such a pleasurable listen. And I don't know how they get that sound, if it's from a keyboard, if it's a sample, but I wanted to point out those two songs have the only thing I can touch on that sounds like that is Daft Punk later on has some sounds like that.
Yeah, it's again I think that they looked at a lot of what they were working with, and I don't know if they were working in a um, I, I don't know if they knew what they were creating, or if they were pushing buttons and sliding sliders and saying, "Okay, this is a cool effect." Like I don't know if they knew how to do that, or if they were just doing it and saying, "Hey, this is really cool." I'd be curious to know that kind of stuff too, because sonically it plays with you as you're going along, and I mean you don't know it, but it just is. It just plays with you as you go along, and they just didn't take a drum machine and program it and let it go, because if you listen to it carefully, you see that the groove is changing as it goes on. They're adding things, they're taking things away, and but yet it stays on the same trajectory, right? It's very, very cool. And again, it just makes me feel good.
The last thing about this album, the song "Oh Yeah," they're skateboarding. So I have headphones on and the song starts and you hear someone skateboard. They do a little ollie and it's the panning that you talked about. So the song is happening and during the entire song, you hear someone skateboarding and then they jump over here and land and then they skateboard and they stop and you can like picture with the sound where the skateboarder is throughout the song. And I don't know if they had the song in separate. They went out and just mic'd up someone skateboarding. But if you listen, oh yeah, with headphones, you're in a skate park while it's playing.
And uh, my guess is, if I were wearing their shoes, is they had this thing that was their map, and they said, how do we incorporate this so that it works within the music? And you're right, it's awesome. And I think part of the reason that it works so well is because of the stereo panning. Is that they've cut out a spot for it, and if you're not hip to it, you might just think it's a sound. But as soon as I mean, you know right away that it's a skateboard of some kind, but it's that panning thing that gets you.
We have a fan question before we dive into your third album. This is from Taz Norris. And the question is, I've known Mitch for years, and he's always the most positive person in the room. How does he handle a day where he's down? Tell him I love him dearly. That's from Taz.
Well, Taz, you are loved as well, you big galoot. Um, Gratitude, simple as that. I'm uh, I think I've probably said this to somebody already this morning in some sort of conversation. Uh, I started out playing drums at a very young age. The idea of not playing drums was just never it wasn't an option for me. I never thought, why would I do anything else? I don't understand. Like, what do you mean get a job? I like doing this. And at some point, the realities of life come in, and you say, well, all right, I need to get a job. And so I focused on how can I get a job but doing what I love doing, and that meant, well, if I'm going to make money at it, I gotta learn how to play in a studio, and I got to learn how to play with different bands, and I've got to learn to teach, and I've got to learn to do all these things, so at least I can monetize what I love doing in some way, so that I don't have to go and Now in my teens, I had to do whatever. I cleaned restaurants, I pumped gas, I did all the things that normal people do. That you go through life, and that's just, you got to put food on the table, and that's all there is to it. But while I was doing that, I was trying to do what I do, and here I am, a number of 50 years later, 60 years later, and I'm still doing what I love doing, and I don't know a lot of people like that. That have done what they love doing all their life. And I love movies, and I love creating music from like I would have loved to have spent 20 years working with David Lynch. I think that that would have been a very cool thing to do. Um, but when I'm not playing drums, I'm doing music for television and movies, and I look at that, and these days, Taz, these days. Um, I get in my car, and I get on my bike, and I take my dog for a run, and I'm not worried about a missile coming through my front window, or I'm not worried about being shot, or and like how lucky am I? And so anytime that I get down, which is about maybe 15 minutes in mid-August, um, anytime even the door opens, that I have the possibility of getting down, I look at how lucky I am. And I used to tell like people, you don't have to be the greatest musician in the world. You don't have to be the greatest sports person in the world. You don't have to be, but you can still get out there, and you can play the game, and you can get in there, and you can make a mark, and you can do what you love doing if you just figure out who you are. And so anytime a door seems like it's closing, I just sit back and I go, dude, how lucky are you? Right. And if you want to get schmaltzy about it, I'm married to someone that says, you be you, and I'll tolerate you for as long as I can. And not trying to change me and not coming at me with expectations. So, like another thing on the gratitude pile. So it's even I wake up with gratitude. So rarely does anything get me down in any way, shape, or form. No, that's on the motivational side, and I'll say this because it's got me through a lot of places that I didn't want to go to, and that is that a lot of people kind of measure with their optimism versus pessimism with the analogy of your glass is either half full or half empty, and my glass, if there's moisture in it, I'm rocking. And if there's no moisture in it and it's completely dry, I'll say, wow, like how awesome is it that I have like the driest glass? You know what I mean? It's just a mindset. I don't try to have that mindset. That's just the way I came out of the womb. That's just that's all that happened. So yeah, Taz, I'm and Taz, if you don't know Taz Norris, Big Daddy Taz is a comedian, very funny comedian, and but also deals with mental health things, and so he's always open to new ideas on how to get out of the hole. So yeah, Taz, thanks for the question.
The third album on your list of favorite albums is the Koln concert by Keith Jarrett. This comes out in 1975. This is a live solo double album that was recorded at the Opera House in Cologne, West Germany. I had no idea, but this is the best-selling solo album in jazz history and the best-selling piano album with sales of around 4 million copies sold. So it's shocking that a jazz album or a piano album sold 4 million, let alone a live album. Can you try to put into perspective how this became such a monster album? Let's start by, I would call this a virtuoso performance.
So you need some understanding as to who Keith Jarrett is. And anybody who's interested in Keith Jarrett, it's not rocket science. Just Google him, and it's all there for you. Um, Keith Jarrett's probably got about, there's got to be 30, 40, I wouldn't even, probably more than 40 solo albums out there, solo concerts. Um, but the Cologne concert, and again, we're going back to criteria, is um, live, mostly impromptu, um, improvised, and is perfect. Now, as an artist, and I'm not saying perfect in terms of all the lines are drawn the same way, but I mean, I when I listen to that album, and I still listen to it quite frequently, I wouldn't change a thing. There's nothing that goes by that I say I wouldn't do it. And Keith Jarrett has a big propensity on any recording that he has, and if you've seen him, he contorts his body when he's playing. Like what you're hearing is definitely not what you're seeing. If you get a chance, find a Keith Jarrett concert, a solo concert, and you'll see you're going, that looks like that, like whoa. And he squeaks and squawks and at one point in time in his earlier career, probably even around the time of the Cologne concert, if someone coughed in the audience, he would get up and leave. Just an artist beyond. But that album, at that point in his career, because he just gets better. But uh, it was the epitome of a solo recording, an improvised solo recording, and I know a lot of solo recordings from virtuosos. I've seen a lot of Keiths, but that one, like the wind was blowing the right way. The piano was in the right spot on the floor or the wrong spot on the floor. Like whatever that you can attribute to it. The thing if a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, how does that affect the tide in Taiwan, right? Uh, Same kind of thing. Like everything that happened that day came together to make that recording, that performance somehow way above any of the other recordings. Anybody who's a Keith Jarrett fan will tell you, like, that concert just caught it. It's not even personal taste. There's something about that recording that says everything here was right, and they caught it live. Right? It's you couldn't catch that in a studio in a million years. It just wouldn't happen. You'd go back, you'd second guess it, you'd do whatever. But it happened. There it was. It happened once, and he caught the beautiful thing. Virtuosity. I don't know that Keith would say that he's a virtuoso.
I would say so, listening to the album.
Well, yeah, but would he say that he's a virtuoso? Is what I'm getting at, and I think that was like that album again was him saying, "Here's my theme. This is the direction I'm going, and I'm gonna make it coherent." And I'm gonna come back and repeat the theme, but I'm gonna make it coherent. I'm gonna take you on a little ride, and we're gonna go different places. Uh, it's never safe. It's never, you never feel he's hesitant to do anything. It's just all flowing. And like, what a great position to be in life. And when I listen to that recording, I say to myself, like, this is live. This is the only time that you'll ever hear this, right? And fortunately, they caught it live, and we've got a little snippet of it. We've got a piece of it, of that greatness. Greatness in music. How much more can you ask for, really?
There's four different songs or sections or acts. I don't know how you want to divide it, but when you listen, it's four different tracks. And man, some of them are 5 minutes, 16 minutes, 25 minutes. So that means him playing live. He's playing like 16 minutes at a time, 25 minutes at a time. Just perfect. To me, it's like overwhelming almost thinking about it.
It is, and I invite you to dig deeper into Keith's things. I mean, and Keith's a drummer too, by the way. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays saxophone. He plays saxophone very well. He plays well enough that he could perform, and you would never think that he did anything else but saxophone. He's a wonderful drummer. Just about any instrument he plays well. But as a piano player. Uh, he's done far longer, far bigger projects than that, and everything from what you're hearing. So we're calling it a jazz record, but I mean, there's a wonderful performance with Chick Corea and I think they're playing Mozart. So two pianos end to end, and they're both playing Mozart. It's absolutely amazing at the ability, but. The sad thing, I don't know if you looked into him, but he had a stroke a couple of years ago, and so he's lost the use, I think, of his left hand. I'm not sure. One of his hands he's lost the use of, which is a tragedy. But at the same point in time, in the interviews that I've seen with him, he just says, "This is what life has dealt me, and there's not much I can do about it. I can still do some things with my right hand, and that's pretty darn good." But his days of replicating something like the Koln concert is done. But we have that. The world has been blessed with this recording.
I had a lot of fun learning about the lore behind that one performance. There's so much crazy stuff that happens for this to take place. So the first thing was the concert was put on by an 18-year-old promoter, so the youngest promoter in Germany, period. And because it's this young 18-year-old girl, they go, okay, well, you can have a slot at 11:30 at night. So there was an earlier opera performance, and they go, yeah, I guess here, take this, 11:30 at night. And still they sold it out, 1,400 people. So that's the first thing that's very cool. It's like a young promoter that put this on. Then they had selected a specific grand piano for the performance. And when Keith shows up, they had a small baby grand piano. So like nothing like what he had requested. And there wasn't enough time to bring in another piano. So he had to go with this baby piano that was not right at all. And they said that even though it's just him alone, you can't hide behind any notes, any mistakes. His performance was completely different than what he had planned because he had to actually switch around the way he played because the piano wasn't great, that he had to play different things to get the sounds that he wanted that he would have had on the grand piano. So it actually changed his performance based on the wrong piano.
Again, one of those things that played into the special performance that it became, right? You can listen to a lot of Keith Jarrett's solo albums, but somehow this one stands above the others. And for nothing, it has nothing to do with the playing. Obviously, the playing is great, but the playing is great on all the records. But something, and and this is like what you're saying. Maybe this is something extra because he was dealing with some adversity, right?
The description of what he did was he used a rolling left hand rhythmic figures during his performance to give the effect of stronger bass notes because it didn't have the notes of the grand piano, and concentrated his playing in the middle portion of the keyboard. Like he actually I can't imagine playing for an hour alone on the guitar. It's hard enough to do that as is, and then you get up and it's a different guitar and you actually have to change what you're playing almost on the fly for an hour. I can't even imagine. That's why I'm saying, to me, this is like virtuoso shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one could argue that Keith was one of those people on the planet that was a step above what musicians spend their life chasing.
Music critic Tom Hall said the album cemented his reputation as the top pianist of his generation. It was listed on Colin Larkin's list of the all-time top 1,000 albums, and it was listed in the book 1,001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. So that's everything I've got on that album. Your fourth album is Soulwax, Much Against Everyone's Advice. This comes out in 1998. There's actually no information about this album on Wikipedia, so I don't have a ton of facts about it. I just have my experience of listening to it. Why does this album mean so much to you?
Well, first of all, we're going to go back. So we're going to go back to my teen years, and one of the albums I listened to a lot back then was the White Album, and the Beatles. For those who don't know what the
And
White
that
Album
almost
is.
made that almost made your top five. We were toying with it for a bit.
Well, the reason it made my top five is because it was when I was a kid, I listened to it all the time. And one of the reasons I listened to it all the time is because the record quite often like took me on a bit of a journey. It took me on a little walk. I mean, the songs were nice, uh, but it took me on a little bit of a walk sonically, musically. Um, but it's not an album that apart from when I was a kid, that I listened to a lot. When this album came out, I found it total fluke. I think I was something was going by. Either I was sitting in a restaurant or something like that, and I heard a tune, and I think it was probably the title track, "Much Against Everyone's Advice," because it's a heavy tune, and I liked the energy that came from it. So I said, "Well, who are these guys?" And so I managed to pick up the album and I brought it home, listened to it, and I liked every track. It was, by the way, when I talked about Nine Inch Nails being in there, I had two records in there. If Soul Wax wasn't out yet at that time, had it been out, it would have been the second one. Because when in the vehicle that I had when I got the Soul Wax, I'd listened to that record over and over and over again. Much of the reason is because every song brought something different to the table. No two songs are similar on that record. And every song, it seems like every bar, only if you get critical, you just really sit down and listen to it. Every bar, there's something different going on. The drums change, or the EQ on the drum changes, or the guitar is replaced with something else, or it's just bass, or it's the vocal is processed differently. But you never know it. It goes by, and you can sing the song as it goes by, but there's all these sonic changes that happens through the entire thing, but you're never aware of it unless they want it to be up front or something like that. But if you really listen critically to it, it's changing constantly. And every song, to me, is like someone thought about it. Someone's thinking about this song. They just didn't put it together in 10 minutes and make it go. No, they said, "Okay, let's bring it here, let's bring it there, let's bring it here." And even the lyrics on most of the songs, not all of them, but even the lyrics, if you wrote those lyrics down, they wouldn't fit in how normal songs are written, right? I mean, just in the way that they flow. But somehow, they make them flow. They make it work. And I've seen a few videos with Soulwax, and they've been. It just looks like a bunch of people they've got all these tools. A lot of it synthesizers and stuff, and there's a drummer playing like a normal set of drums. But it seems like they're thinking about what's going on here. They're not just playing what's there. They're saying, no, we want it to sound this way. And they go at it. And when they went into the studio, like live, woo, I can only imagine what it would be like live. But I think when they went into the studio, they said, okay, this thing here has happened too long. We got to change it. But we're not going to change it so that it's noticeable. We just wanted to change it so that it brings a different color as it goes along. And it's every song that goes by, sort of like the Propellarheads. I listen to every one of them, and I just like them. Right? Uh, there's another record that might have made the top five from a band from New Zealand called She Had, which has a lot of the same sort of energy from Nine Inch Nails, but more in a rock vein, not in a downward spiral vein. And the reason that I didn't consider it is there's one song on the record that I hit skip every time, right? So on any of the records we've talked about so far, including the Soulwax one, there's no song I hit skip. I go, oh yeah, this one, and I love it.
I have some notes that support what you've been saying. So my notes say the album covers a lot of ground musically. They fit a lot of ideas into each song. The vocals go to a lot of strange places and they really keep you guessing. So I found that when I'm listening to the singer, I think they're going to hit this note next, and they always go to that note. I found that they always chose notes that I wouldn't have chosen, which kept me on guard the entire album.
Yeah, because you're singing, right? You can't help it, but you start singing along with songs, and you think it's going one direction, and they do go a different direction. You know, even groove wise, like sometimes they'll change the groove right in the middle of the tune, and then you've got tunes like that are really heavy, and then you got another tune which is kind of this, like they clean it all up and it's this nice little piano thing that goes by with a nice soft lyric, and then boom, right back into whacking you in the head. And so it's like little events that are going on that you're following, right? Sorry, continue on. I cut you off.
No, track 4 is exactly what you said. It caught me off guard. So that's much against everyone's advice. So the first 3 songs are pretty just cool. They're mellow. And then suddenly the chorus of track 4 has this big grunge chorus that I was not expecting. That was very cool. I'm like, okay, they just set the template that I don't know what's coming moving forward with this album.
Yeah, that chorus on that song is amazing. I just think it's amazing because it's so there's so much volume in that thing. If you play it loud, it leaps. It wants to throw your speakers out the window. It's so big, and even when they get towards the end, because it's got one of those dead stop kind of things. There's so much energy in there. It's not somebody. It's not somebody playing it right. It's somebody playing it, right? And even the singing. There's not just singing. He's singing like this. I don't care how this is coming across. It's about the energy and not about the execution.
The album had 7 singles, 5 of them charted in the UK. The album goes gold in Belgium. 22 years after this album, the group got their first Grammy nomination. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just the longevity, sticking around that long until you get the Grammy nomination. One of my favorite things about this album was the song titles. So I want to name a few of them. So some of the song titles on this album: Overweight Karate Kid, Proverbial Pants, The Salty Knowledge of Tears, Too Many DJs, and Temptingly Yours. I just thought the song titles were very cool and well thought out and unique.
Yeah, and the song titles, those words actually show up in the song.
That's very true. They're not random. We have a fan question from Devin Anthony Farrell. The question is, ask him how he makes it day to day without me. What would he do without me? He will understand, and I'm sure the answer will be comical. Then this is the best. He says, also, why does he hate Wayne? That's from Devin.
Okay. Well, for those who don't know, Devin is our monitor tech and my drum tech. So Wayne, Devin sets my drums up for me, and is very, very concerned that he's done good. So they have a plexiglass that goes in front of me, and before they put the plexiglass on, Devin waits for me to show up, and I go through the kit to make sure everything is where I want it to be. I can tell what kind of a day he's having, right? Maybe the load in was a tough day if things aren't quite like he didn't take the time to go at it. And he usually comes at me and he's very apologetic and everything else. Um, but like Crash Test Dummies, Devin is another personality. So you could say he's number seven in terms of his personality is so different from everyone else's. Devin also has the ability to understand the downward spiral. Now, I'm not saying he lives that, but I mean, he could listen to that and go, like, understand it, and go, yeah. Um, but he brings an energy to the show every night just by being off stage. But you know his antics, um, and he's one of the first people that I see in the mornings. Wayne's the first guy that I see in the morning, but then I'll see Devin, and Devin always brings cheer to the table, and Devin is also no job is too hard. So, you know, we've got to go up 8 stories into this building, and you're going to have to, you know, carry every little piece up and go, yeah, okay, all right, well, let's get busy. Like he's just that guy. And so when he's not around, like there's this can-do energy that's just not around, and so I miss him. So generally, if I call him, it'll be like, hey, you know, we're missing you around here. Now Wayne is our front of house and also our tour manager, and they would say that I hate Wayne, or Wayne would say that I hate Wayne because I give to him all the things that he has trouble dealing with. So I will give him a nice big hug in the morning, and that makes him tense up. I
He gets
will
squeamish when there's a good hug.
exactly. I will test his sense of humor on every corner, and I will call him out on every little thing that he says, and it's all done with love. And I think he hates that, and so he thinks that I hate him because I just do all these little things that he has trouble with. But I love them both dearly. Again, I'm going to put it out there. Wayne, number 8, the personality that that helps make the whole machine what it is because it's an eighth personality. It's and you can't say that Devin, they're both from the East Coast. You can't say that Devin and Wayne are the same people. They're very different people, and they bring those personalities into, you know, there's I think we talked about this before, and these two guys add to it. What you see is the band. That's what you see. That's what you hear. But there's people off stage, front of house, that make our life what it is. And so, say for Devin, Devin is really preoccupied with making sure that everyone, he does all our in-ear monitors. And so he understands that when he does his job real well, that we're more comfortable to be performers. We do our job better because we're comfortable doing what we do. And when you're in a big stage and there's a lot of people out there and there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of shit that can go wrong, he takes a lot of pride in making sure everything goes right. And so that affects us and how we do it. And from front of house, you know, we've got Wayne, who's constantly on my case. I push him to the absolute limit. Like, Mitch, we're on in 10 minutes, get dressed, you know, and I was like, no, not going to happen. And he sweats sometimes because like we're 2 minutes away and like your shoes aren't on. Where you know, we bring in this bloody suitcase and you don't have got shoes on. But it's the dynamics that he brings, the care that he brings, what he brings out the front end. Again, that just gives us the confidence to do what we do. So yeah, I don't hate either of them. I love them both. You know, Wayne just needs a kick in the head, and Devin needs a kick in the pants. That's all.
Wayne, I will not get my pants on until it's absolutely necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've made it to your fifth and final album on your list of favorite albums. This is Miles Davis, Four and More. This comes out in 1966. This is another live album. I don't know if I've ever had someone choose multiple live albums on their list of favorite. Why this album specifically from an artist that is known for having multiple of the greatest albums of all time in his discography?
Well, we're gonna revisit a story that told you earlier. My buddy John Zilak introduced me to Miles Davis, and at the time, the drummer playing with Miles Davis is Tony Williams. He was 17, I think, when they recorded that album. Now, now that you know that, go back and listen to it and say, "This guy's 17? Like, really? Are you kidding me?" Um, Now that aside, not from a drummer's standpoint. So when I was 19 and 20 years old, this is when John had introduced me to Miles Davis, and I really didn't know. I wasn't listening. I was listening to Queen. Come on, Queen, Miles Davis, big difference there. And so it was jazz to me back then. And so I'm going to interject here with another story. So John had introduced me to Miles Davis. Um, I was learning more about jazz, about music, and everything else. And there's a guitar player by the name of Larry Roy, who is fairly renowned in Canada. He's known. A bass player, Gilles Fournier, saxophone player, Bill Spornitz. We rehearsed. We wanted to do some jazz gigs, and we rehearsed at Larry's place 12, 14 hours a day for a month. It just, we played everything from Chick Corea. We were playing some Miles Davis tunes. One of the tunes that we played was a tune by Keith Jarrett. It was called The Drums. And I think Jack DeJohnette was playing drums on this particular cut. And so a month, 12 hours, 14 hours a day of rehearsing, learning these songs and everything else. We played the show that we were rehearsing this for. And so when you talk to a heroin addict, they will tell you that they spend their total addicted life chasing the feeling they had on the first hit. So they got high. They said, this is the best thing in the world. I want to do it again. But heroin doesn't bring you to that place the second time or nor the third time. It gets a different place, but doesn't bring you to that place. And so you end up chasing that your whole life. So now here I am. I'm 19 years old, 20 years old, and we play this show that we've been rehearsing 12 hours for. And that particular song, The Drums, we play that song. It has nothing to do with the talent. What it has to do with is we played the song, and when we finished it, it felt that was the heroin hit. That was I'm spend the rest of my life chasing this feeling that we just had, this feeling we just created. And it might have been from, 12 hours a day, for endless time, and the learning, the practicing, everything else for this one moment. But it happened. It had, like, it was there. It said, I want this. I want to feel this after every show. That album, Four and More, to me, when I heard it the very first time, I thought in my mind that that's what those guys were thinking. I thought that was the bar that these musicians on this stage right now, Tony Williams at 17 years old, is going to spend the rest of his life chasing. I want every night to be this because it's better than heroin, it's better than cocaine, it's better than alcohol, it's better than sleepy time, it's better than sex. It is this. This is what you spend your life as a musician chasing. That feeling that when you get off stage and you go, like, this is the ultimate high. And I listen to that record, and every time I listen to that record, I say to myself, if I was there, if I was playing that night, I couldn't have played better, right? And I'm not talking from a technical standpoint. I'm talking about four people playing together and actually being together. If you listen to that record, the ears on everybody on that stage must be like elephant ears, because they're picking up everything that everyone else is putting down. And it's four people playing in a real ensemble. And that album to this day is represents that for me. And I put it in my top five because it's live. They didn't go into a studio, play it, and say, "Well, yeah, we could play that better. Let's try again, and we'll take six or take two, or we'll put some of take six in take two or whatever, and then we'll put some reverb on it because it's a little dry." No, it was in a room, and the recording process in those days were not what it is today. It was the basics, but it's what they had, and they still created this amazing. I think there were five people on stage, so they created this amazing vibe, this feeling. Again, if you were there, like the Keith Jarrett record, you got it. This is the one time that this is going to happen, right? The others, I'm sure, were great performances, but there was something about that one that they caught and spend the rest of their life chasing it. I would think, maybe Tony Williams looks back at it and goes, "Eh," and maybe Miles thinks it was the worst night of his life. I don't know. I would, I'd hold my heart if that was the case, but that's what it represents to me anyway. That's why it makes my top five, because I think it's genuine, it's real, just like all the other records that we've talked about.
I like how whenever the band does something cool or if they change something up, you can hear the crowd clap, like show their appreciation for what they're
Hmm.
experiencing live.
Yeah, yeah, I wonder how big the crowd was there. I doubt that it was that big, because it was, a lot of clubs in those days. So that would be of the five I gave you. There were three that you'd never heard, right? So, or are there four?
Four. Yeah,
Yeah,
only the Nine Inch Nails. I own that album. I was completely familiar with it, but the other four are new to me. So you're helping with my music education here.
yeah, and I'm glad that they just weren't like obscure records. Because when we started talking about it, that was another part of my criteria, is like, should I be picking albums that are from the same language, right? Which is, there's a few albums that could fit into the Nine Inch Nails, right? Or should I go all with the jazz records? If people look through my record collection, and it happens quite often when people are down here in this room, um, they'll look through stuff, and about 60% of it, they go, "Who's this? What's this? And where does this come from?" And which is fine. But I had no idea about these Grammy Awards and everything else that these albums have done. In particular, Propellarheads. I just kind of thought it was an offshoot, but it's obviously been much more recognized than I thought. Wow, that's cool. This brings me joy.
I thought this was a fun listen. It feels alive. It's like the live recording. It feels like it's humans and it's alive and it's this entity that you're experiencing, instead of sometimes nowadays you get very dry, perfect sounding albums that don't sound like there's human beings behind them.
Yeah. And sometimes people will ask me about electronic drums, and I'll always say that the having real drums is important, like having a real guitar or having a real piano as opposed to electronic piano, because you learn to understand the action from, or the reaction from action. So how the stick hits the cymbal, how the stick hits the drum, where it hits the drum, the amount of energy, where you're holding the stick, and all that kind of thing. And it's the same with a live performance. In particular, if we want to go listen to four and more, you listen to it, and it's you're nothing is studio, nothing is perfect. You can hear when he moves the stick on the snare drum, you can hear the dynamics in each. And I think the piano, for a lot of the recordings, a little distant, but it's still, you're still hearing that, and you're not hearing, "Let's bring in the applause," let's bring in the audience, let's bring out the audience. If the audience claps, you hear it, you know. And as with Keith Jarrett on that album, there's some spots you can hear. You hear that thing going on. It just makes you're there in the room with them, right?
There's a famous piano player on this Miles Davis album. It's Herbie Hancock playing piano.
Yeah, 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 yeah. A very young Herbie Hancock.
I guess so. 1966. It's been a hot
Yeah.
minute since then.
Yeah, yeah, no, very young. I mean, Miles himself was quite young, and I'm not sure where that was in Miles's career in terms of like he had heroin issues and stuff like that. I'm not sure where that was in his career at that time, but still, everything you listen to on that record is great. Good tidbit. Good
One
investigating.
final thing you might like is I was thinking while listening to it, so there's 8 songs, and I'm thinking, oh, this is all up tempo and fun. It turns out that in that concert, they recorded what became 2 albums. And this favorite album of yours is only the up-tempo songs that they played. And then the slower songs that they played from the same concert became the My Funny Valentine concert live
Oh, I
album.
didn't know that.
So if you listen to them together, that's one full concert divided by the tempo of the songs. And that's why this is such a fun, groovy listen.
Ah, I didn't know that. Like my favorite song on that is Seven Steps to Heaven, which is always was always I've heard many renditions of Seven Steps, and that one in particular, I just thought like if I could play it that good, that that like that's the tempo, the playing, everything. I just felt this is the right space for the song. Again, take away the technical things, take away the sonic things, and just go into the energy, right? This song makes me feel good, and that whole album, everything on it just makes me feel good.
We made it to the final question, and this is from a fan. This is from Evelyn Withrow. Her question is, if someone wanted to include a Crash Test Dummies album on their list of top 5 favorite albums of all time, is there one that you would hope that they would include and why? I guess she's asking, do you maybe have a favorite Crash Test Dummies album? And are you allowed to choose a favorite child? I don't know if you are allowed.
Well, I've got four. I love them all dearly, and I would never put one in front of the other. Um, if a fan was going to, for reasons that are, I A Worm's Life is one of my favorites. Now, why? After the success of, first of all, God Shoveled His Feet was a radical turn from Ghost That Haunt Me. Those two albums are not similar in any way. And with A Worm's Life, we tried to push it further. And it didn't have an on it. Um, so what? Uh, but I thought that we tried to push the envelope further. We didn't just say, well, God Shoveled His Feet was this great record, and we should make another one like that. We said, okay, that was that. We've grown as human beings, we've grown as musicians. Let's try to push it further. And uh, not every song is a toe tapper and take it away, but I think some of them uh, were really good songs. Really was really good music, and it didn't get the credit that God Shuffled His Feet did. But I still think it's a great record, and I wish I wish it got the notoriety that I think it should have. So from my perspective, anyway, I think it's a great record. Maybe from an industry, standpoint, maybe it's not as, you know.
So, as we wrap up here, I just want to take a moment to thank you for introducing me, as well as our listeners, to 5 great albums that we can now add to our collections if they weren't already there. And I want to thank you for sitting down with me for the last 2+ hours, answering all these ridiculous questions, taking a deep dive into all these amazing albums. So, Mitch, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, I would say to you, my friend, that you do your gig really well. And when you ask, you could ask me to come and bake you a pie, and I would. It's always an absolute pleasure talking to you. I enjoy the questions and the trivia that you come up with. It always, just makes me feel good each and every time. And I know I have a propensity to go on and on and on and talk and get off the topic. So I apologize to you and your listeners if anybody's going, come on, get to the point and looking for the fast forward button. Yeah, I can't thank you enough for being you.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it. You're very welcome. And man, I could, no interview here, no talk with you is long enough. I could go 4 hours. So never worry about that. And man, I might take you up on that pie offer someday. So anyways, to the Mitch Dorge fans, the Crash Test Dummies fans, so the podcast fans, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.
2.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Who would you like me to feature next for a 2-hour deep dive interview? You can let me know in the comments. You can also send me an email at joelmartinmastery@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on all social media platforms at joelmartinmastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.